revenue, but also recognition.
You know, as you said, this was going to be a big revenue event for the city of Milwaukee, but even bigger was the earned media attention globally that Milwaukee was going to receive. And so we were looking at this not only as a short-term economic impact, but also as a long-term economic impact for the city of Milwaukee.
And we had seen that the Democratic Party had been criticized for not investing enough in Wisconsin during the 2016 election, a very important electoral college state. And this was supposed to be that big chance to go big in the state with all the bells and whistles for the convention. But unfortunately, the coronavirus changed all that. So what's been the local response to the decision to go mostly digital?
Well, I think that Milwaukeeans do appreciate that the DNCC and the host committee have put public safety first. And so limiting the size of the convention and going virtual really prioritizes the health and safety not only of Milwaukeeans, but also of all the visitors who would have been here. But we at Visit Milwaukee and the city of Milwaukee itself are still capitalizing on this opportunity and maximizing the opportunity to put Milwaukee on a global stage.
So then talk about the DNC pledge for those still coming to Wisconsin to avoid bars and restaurants. How likely are people to abide by that, and what does that mean for the local industry there?
Well, you know, I have seen people out at bars and restaurants, but of course we do have a mask mandate not only in the city of Milwaukee, but in the state of Wisconsin as well. And so when you do see people out and about, they are masked up and people are taking it very seriously. So I appreciate the DNCC's commitment to making sure that people stay safe and avoid the coronavirus, but they are still out and about in bars, in restaurants, in retail shops, in businesses and venues across the city, but they are wearing their masks as they're supposed to.
Now let's keep moving on to next week's Republican convention taking place in Charlotte. What do you think that will look like?
You know, that's entirely up to the RNC and the city of Charlotte to decide what their convention is going to look like. Obviously, if it looks anything like Milwaukee's, it's going to be quite different than what we're used to. But it does feel good for the city of Milwaukee to be the first to ever hold an entirely virtual political convention. You know, dozens of cities across the country can say that they've hosted political conventions in the past, but only Milwaukee can say that we've hosted the entirely virtual one.
So speaking of some of these new changes then, remind us of some of the ways that COVID has really changed the primary season as we know it, and perhaps the impact it might have on the way that candidates have campaigned and raised money in the state.
Well, I do think the COVID virus has had a phenomenal impact on all aspects of life, and certainly nothing that we could have anticipated. And so it has changed the way that people are doing their campaigning. It has changed the way that people are doing their fundraising, the way that they're doing everything that they do. And so it's going to be an interesting campaign season now through Election Day as to how people pivot, just like the rest of us have had to pivot, and get their message out there to the public.
So do you think that with all of this, could it potentially lead to then a permanent change in some of these campaigns and presidential conventions? And what does that then mean perhaps for local economies?
You know, the truth is that if you had asked me a year ago if we would be where we are now, I would have not believed it, but here we are. So I am not certainly one to predict the future. But we do know that leisure travel to Milwaukee is starting to tick back up and come back. And we do know that business and convention travel is also starting to come back. Our sales team at Visit Milwaukee has never been busier booking future events for the city. So we have full confidence that people will want to continue to meet in person, to have that face-to-face connection and networking. And so we are very sure that Milwaukee will continue to be not only a great leisure destination, but also a great convention and business destination.
Then what do you think the expectations are for how Trump and Biden are then going to approach campaigning, given that, as you say, people like the sort of face-to-face interaction, but then you also have obviously the coronavirus as well?
You know, I'm no political expert. I think it's going to be a new learning opportunity for both campaigns and for all of the potential swing states as well. You know, this could take on an entirely new dimension.
All right. Well, thank you for your insights. Kristin Settle there, Senior Director of Communications and Public Affairs at Visit Milwaukee.